I don't know if there'll be snow. Hello, it's the 20th of December already. Welcome to a Friday, 8:52 in the morning here in western Iowa, which is also our weather spotlight for this morning. It's 9 degrees. It feels like -6. And, I told you the cold air is going to be coming down overnight through the plains, and it certainly did. And we still have that northwest breeze blowing, so that's why the wind chill is down there. Even with sunshine today, only 25 for a high, but we would be warming up fairly quickly, freezing for a high tomorrow. And then the second half of the weekend, low 40s, mid 40s Monday. So the warmth, air quote, is coming back. I mean, for this time of year, 40s is warm. So there it is, current temperatures across the country, and you see how far that cold air has sunk, teens all the way down into Kansas, and 20s getting into Illinois, even Indiana freezing, and the Northeast holding on to some of that coolness too. You can see Canada's just blanketed with cold air, which that's going to change in a week, but then it's going to change back. All right, let's go through the 24-hour temperature change. You see where that cold air has sunk southward through the center of the country. And then you see the southeast hanging on to some chilly air, and same with the northeast. A little bit warm in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to change that in time too. Hazards today, few and far between. But we do still have some snow coming down in, say, Michigan with some winter weather advisories there, even a little bit near Milwaukee. And then also the eastern Great Lakes, and then down into West Virginia, the mountains of North Carolina, and Kentucky and Virginia. A little bit of fog along the Texas coast, a little bit of fog, Central California, a little bit of wind, Northern California, Southern Oregon. Rain and snow the next 48 hours. So ending December 22nd at 7 a.m. Eastern. You can see precipitation across the eastern Great Lakes into the Northeast, into the Ohio Valley, and especially the Pacific Northwest. Where will this be snow? Well, those snow levels are pretty high in Oregon and Washington and California. So snow only for the highest peaks. A little bit more snow for Idaho into Montana. Some light snow North Dakota. And then most of our snow is going to be in the Great Lakes area, maybe getting down into West Virginia, mountains of North Carolina, like we talked about before. And your surface for today looks like this. There's that cold air all the way through Oklahoma and into Indiana. And there's your snow for Michigan, maybe Illinois, Indiana too. A little bit of light snow North Dakota, maybe some ice in Montana. Hope not, because, what can you do with ice? I don't know, take some pretty pictures? Not even that, really. Some maybe. Anyway, a mixture of rain and snow, Ohio Valley up through the New England area, but further north, it's snow and a little bit of rain for North Carolina, South Carolina. And then your anomalous temperatures for today. It is cold for the plains and east, although Texas hanging on to average or slightly above average temperatures. Otherwise, it's warm west. Surface tomorrow. There's your lingering snow for the Great Lakes into the Northeast, down through the Appalachians. And then there's your rain and snow, mostly rain for the Pacific Northwest, even some freezing rain. Anomalous temperatures tomorrow. It's warm west, cold east. Surface on Sunday. Warming up in the plains with some strong southerly winds. We'll show you that. And that could lead to some icing up there in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. Now, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, it's going to mix in or turn to or be snow. And then you see a mix of rain and snow for the Pacific Northwest, depending on location and elevation. Anomalous temperature Sunday. Warm west and sneaking into the plains, even into the Midwest. Coldest northeast and the central coast, east central. All right, let's check out the GFS. And we're starting at 6 o'clock this morning. Here's your cold air. And here's your lingering snows from Illinois into Indiana, Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania, but especially Michigan. And a little bit of rain there in North Carolina, leaving into the coast. This low pretty far from the coast. So we are seeing snow, although it's light, but even in New Jersey, even in Massachusetts, Rhode Island. and Boston's getting, well, yeah, maybe, and then up into New York State. So this is Friday. This is today. This is this afternoon. And as we get into this evening, a little bit of snow clipping northwestern Washington state, and then your light snow up there in the northeast. Now, we get into Saturday, Saturday morning, Saturday noon, Central Time. We see another system moving into the Pacific Northwest with a lot of rain here, some snow in the higher elevations, cold air into the southeast, and freezing temperatures too. And then that Pacific Northwest storm moves into Idaho, rain and snow, rain at the lower elevations, snow in the higher elevations, and into northwestern Montana. Looks like snow, maybe Kalispell, down maybe to Missoula, and then into the Gem State too. And then as we get through Sunday, that was through Saturday, now we're into Sunday, that cold air hanging on in the northeast, but you see it's getting kind of windy here in the plains in the Midwest, and that southerly wind bringing back some of the warmth. Low mid 40s for highs is kind of 10 degrees above average around here. All right, some snow here on Sunday in parts of Nevada, Oregon, Northern California. Moving into Idaho. Now, you see it's rain, lower elevation, see some light snow here on the 22nd. It gets more interesting around Christmas time. All right, holding on to the cold air northeast, a little bit of light snow in the Dakotas. The Northwest is the big story. Storm after storm after storm. Rain on the coast, snow in the higher elevations. You get further inland, still rain at the lower elevations, Idaho. Snow in the mountains. Although the eastern Snake River is getting some snow here. Idaho Falls, Pocatello. Then we get into the Great Lakes on Monday. This is noontime. Some pretty heavy snow in, say, western Michigan. And also now moving into New York State. This is approaching Christmas Eve day. This is the 23rd at midnight. So we do see some rain busting out. Southern Plains into the Ohio Valley. Heavy rain along the Oregon and Washington and Northern California coast. And some snow in the Northeast. Where will we see a white Christmas? Well, there's snow in the Northeast on Christmas Eve, so that might be a hint. All right, a little bit of rain again. Rain increasing in Oregon and Washington, starting out with some pretty high snow levels. This is 6 a.m. Christmas Eve day. And as we get to, say, noon, Christmas Eve day, there's pretty heavy showers, or maybe a rumble of thunder from, say, Little Rock down through Paris, Texas, maybe Tyler. Then you get into eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. It's rain, but some snow up here in the mountains, and heavy rain and snow for the mountains of California. It looks like pretty high snow levels there, which start to drop as we get later in the day, Christmas Eve. So this is Christmas Eve night. It's some pretty heavy rain here, Arkansas into East Texas. And then some pretty good snows coming down eastern Oregon. But you do see some rain at some of the lower elevations as we get towards midnight. This is 9 p.m. Central, and the heavy rain continues in Louisiana now, moving into Louisiana, Shreveport. And then we get to, this is Santa time, midnight Central time, and it's snowing. And is that snow in Boise? It's close. It's light. But are you saying there's a chance? There's a chance. And then we have some heavy rain coming in Louisiana, Arkansas. Let's get into Christmas morning, shall we? With sugar plums dancing in their heads. The kids are waking up the folks way too early as we get into 6 a.m. Christmas morning. It's raining. Mississippi, near Memphis. It's snowing. Salt Lake City. What a great sight. And light snow up to Pocatello and Idaho Falls in eastern Idaho. Then we have a little bit of light rain in the Ohio Valley and Missouri. And then we get later in the day, this is noontime, Christmas Day. It's raining in Iowa. Not western Iowa, though, but it's raining in Iowa. So rain in Iowa on Christmas is not normal. It happens, but not very often. Rain in Mississippi into Alabama. Another big storm approaching the Pacific Northwest. By evening time, Christmas, heavy snows in the Cascades, heavy rain, Oregon and Washington coast. We're seeing rain spreading across the southeast. This is Christmas night. This gets us to Christmas at midnight Central Time. So some rains in the southeast and the Pacific Northwest, rain or snow depending on location and elevation. And as we get into the day after Christmas, this is where I've been promising Boise snow, and it still looks like it. So this is 6 a.m. Central. What is that, 4 in the morning, Boise? So maybe a burst of snow there. We'll see. I mean, we're getting a little bit out there. It's 6 days away, and to pinpoint exactly the time and amount is pretty tough. But yeah, there you go. Just throw it out there. Some rain for Salt Lake City. Snow for Salt Lake City into eastern Idaho and Wyoming. Some pretty heavy snows up there in eastern Washington into northwestern Montana. Another storm system moving into the northwest. Meanwhile, we see some thunderstorms in Arkansas. This is the 26th, so the day after Christmas. And some more snow in Nevada and Idaho and eastern Oregon. And so that moves across, maybe rain, Boise, but I don't know. It's awfully close and it's awfully heavy. So maybe some more snow for you on the 27th. Heavy in Nevada, so enjoy. Heavy snow moving into Utah as we get into midnight the 26th. Also moving into Wyoming. More rain for Iowa and back into Missouri, and heavy rain for western Tennessee. Let's go a little quicker now that we're past Christmas because I want to show you something. We're going to start to warm up in the east. That's what the red lines are. We're going to start to cool off in the west, and that's going to be more pronounced. That's going to lead to something special here in Harlan, Iowa. But not on the 28th. It's more rain. But you see the west cooling off, and you see that snow spreading. See these blue lines. Watch that. As we start to dig a trough in the west, there it is. And as we get to the end of the year, we've got a big rainstorm for the east. But watch it. It's coming. Big storm forming in the Rockies, moving into the plains. If this comes true, our first real snowstorm, January 2nd for the plains and the Midwest. So here's hoping. All right, highs for today, and not going to be very high in Iowa, 20s at best. Freezing temperatures again down to Kansas City, over to St. Louis, down into Kansas itself. But a little warmer when you head into the Ohio Valley, and warmer still down in the southeast, but that's not warm by southeast standards. I mean, mid-40s for northern Mississippi is kind of cold for them. Meanwhile, in the desert southwest, it's 81 in Tucson. Look at these low temperatures Saturday morning, freezing all the way down to the Gulf Coast. So the southeast below freezing for the most part. And the single digits retreat into the northern plains and the upper Midwest, but we're still starting in the teens here in Iowa through Kansas. And so tomorrow it warms up a little bit here in western Iowa, high near freezing, as that colder air retreats northward and eastward. And we're starting to see warmer temperatures in the plains, hanging on to 80 degrees, Tucson and Phoenix, 50s up the west coast. Highs on Sunday, even warmer in the plains and Midwest. A little bit cooler northeast, but everywhere else is kind of warming up. Moderating cool temperatures in the southeast. Still not super warm, but warmer. 60s return Louisiana, Mississippi. Still 50s Alabama, Georgia as we get into Monday. 40s mid-Atlantic. 20s up there in the northeast. But 40s back in Iowa. 50s for, say, Nebraska. Highs on Tuesday, about the same here in the Midwest. You have to go up into Minnesota and the Dakotas to get into the freezing air, but even 30s in Wisconsin. Now, remember, they got snow yesterday, and will they hang on to enough snow for a white Christmas? Stay tuned. Highs on Wednesday, warming up, moderating temperatures southeast, and staying above average here in the Midwest, and some of that cold air retreating even from the northeast. 40s along the west coast, 50s central California, the desert southwest. It's still warm. I forgot, this is Christmas right here, so this is your Christmas highs. So I'd say that's pretty warm for most of the country. And then the day after Christmas, a little bit cooler in the northwest, but yeah, on the warm side. And even beyond that, averaged out from December 27th through January 2nd, warm for most, well, pretty much the entire country, according to the National Weather Service's projections. Precipitation wise, it could be wet and snowy, though, and then we've certainly seen that in the GFS model, but below average precipitation likely for southern Arizona, southern California, New Mexico, into far west Texas. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Well, if you're in the white area, dream on. This is the European. So this is the European interpretation. Now, where we saw the snow yesterday across the northern plains, Midwest, into the Great Lakes, and Northeast is going to add to these totals from yesterday. So I think this is pretty good for the plains into the Northeast. Maybe a little overdone for some of the mountains in the West, but that's what the European says. The Canadian says this. About the same areas, Northern Plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast, similar. A little less in the West. And then the GFS is kind of in between, maybe even a little more or less in the West. So, but pretty spot on, I think, for the Northern Plains through the upper Midwest through the Northeast. So pick your favorite. These are the ensembles. And we'll see what happens. I think the Europeans got a pretty good handle on this for most. Maybe a little overdone for the snow amounts in the mountains in the west. But time will tell, and we'll keep you posted right here on the Weather Mic. We will see you tomorrow. Merry Christmas.